every QA engineer, including manual, automation, or an SDET, needs to know at least the basics of CICD, as he will work with it sooner or later. And GitHub Actions is one of the world's most popular workflow automation tool that can automate your CI/CD processes. And not only, please pay attention to the wording, as it's not only CI/CD tool. And in a minute, I will show you how you can set up any test automation framework to run on a GitHub Actions and explain basics of it to you by utilizing Playwright automation framework for this example. You will learn how to set it up for the first time, kick it off manually or automatically, GitHub action, triggers, events, jobs, steps, and much more. But I will explain it only to those kind of people who have subscribed to our channel, hit the big fat thumb up button below, and also left a comment where you've explained why you did not enjoy this video or why you did. Now, let me quickly remind you who am I before we get started. My name is Sergey Kromchenko. I am software QA engineer, lead manager, and a senior engineering manager of SDET in the past. But these days, I'm helping people like you to become a QA engineer from scratch or to improve your existing skills. Now, let's kick it off. First of all, I'm going to set up test automation framework from scratch. And for those who are already familiar with the setup, you can simply scroll to the next moment where I'm going to be explaining the YAML file or the CI/CD or workflow. So let's quickly Google install Playwright. Click the first link, scroll down, copy the command to install Playwright, and I'm going to navigate to terminal. See where am I located, Kromchenko, see what can I see, ls, I'm going to get inside of the desktop, and I'm going to create a new folder, call it play, and I'm going to also get inside of this folder. Awesome, now I'm inside of play and I'm going to paste the command that I've copied from the browser and hit enter to install Playwright for the first time in this folder. It's going to give us a couple of options. So with the help of the keyboard, I'm going to press arrow down, hit enter for the JavaScript. I'm going to hit enter to use default location for the tests, which is tests folder. Do you want to add GitHub Actions workflow? I'm going to press yes, because this is the reason why I'm recording this video right here. Do you want to install browsers? I'm going to also hit yes. Amazing. While it's installing, you guys are very likely going to see the same issue that I've seen. Unsupported engine, which is Node. I'm going to use NVM to switch to another version because I have v14 by default, and you guys should have 18 or above. So I can switch simply by running NVM use 21. And it said that it was successfully switched to Node version 21.7.3. If you guys do not see the same message, most likely you do not have NVM installed. If you do want to install, you will see video on the top right corner of the screen. Just click that link or icon and you will see NVM installation video, and then come back to this one. All right, I'm gonna move forward. So we did install it. Let's run ls to make sure we do see that. Awesome. File, open folder. Now I'm going to switch to the window with, let's see, desktop. Play, perfect. I'm going to open it up. Then I'm going to press function control tilde to open up a new terminal, close the rest of the things that are not necessary for us at this moment. Great. Playwright has been installed and it can run. We're not going to test it because the reason we're here is to talk about CI/CD and see how we can set up from scratch, specifically how to work with GitHub Actions. So the GitHub Actions workflow, which is pretty much a pipeline, which is a code or a list of instructions for the GitHub Actions to run our code. And those instructions are here. First of all, let's set up a remote repository so we could run it, and then I will explain it to you guys from the beginning. Now I'm going to switch to my GitHub, create a new repository, click new. If you guys don't have an account, please create a new one, and then you can also follow the same instructions. I'm going to call it play, and then since this is a Playwright regression, run, and then I'm going to scroll down, create a new repository. And afterwards, we can simply follow these instructions. By the way, I do have SSH set up, so it will work like magic for me. If it does not work for you guys, simply follow this video on the top right corner of the screen, or you can also find it in the description below. I'm going to follow these instructions that I already know by heart. Get init to initialize new repository. Okay, on my local. Then get add dot to add all of the code that we have created. Get commit -m first commit, which is going to be the very first one we're creating. And now we're going to switch back here, copy this command which says get remote at origin, which means we're going to connect our local repo with this origin repo. Copy paste, hit enter. I did skip this one because I didn't change the name to main branch. Lately, GitHub not requires, but it gives people instructions and options to switch name master to main. I didn't do it just to not do some extra steps. And now we can simply press or type in git push. It tells us that, hey, this repository exists only on your origin. You cannot push it because it only exists on your local, not on origin. So you gotta run this command to push it to your origin. This branch master exists only on your local. So we did create it. Now, when we get back here, we refresh our page, you will see that our code has already been pushed to remote repo, which means our local repo is connected to our remote repo. And click Actions, which stands for GitHub Actions. And here you can see our job running for the very first time. And on the left, so this is the GitHub Actions page. And on the left side, you can see all of the workflows that we have. Workflow is very similar to the pipeline in general CICD. So our first run is done. So let me show you how it ran, what happened, and then I will explain it to you. So you can see only one job here, which is test. You could have many jobs here, such as create, which would create a new build of the application, then unit test, which would run a unit test, then integration test, then end-to-end tests, then some report. I don't know. There could be different things. Now I'm going to switch back and show you guys that here is the name that I was talking about, playwright tests, that you can see. Let me go back to GitHub Actions right here, playwright tests. So this line of the code in a YAML file that we can see is only corresponding to the name that will show up right here. The second when we see our commit name right here, when we click it, we can see our jobs, and we have only one, which is test right here, or also right there. The jobs are located right here, and you can see it by indentation. So this line goes down, and there are no other names. That means there are no other jobs. There is only one job. And as I mentioned, since this is the QA pipeline or QA workflow, we do not need to build an app in this case. I mean, in some of the companies could be done differently, and we would have, let's say, test, and inside of the test, we would have, let's call it, I don't know, build. Let me just find it real quick. Oops, where is it at? Test, we're gonna call it build, and then I'm gonna move them with a shift tab backwards a couple of times. One more time, there we go. It could be like that. So test, build, etc. But I'm going to remove it since we have only one of them for now. And let's see, this job will have multiple steps. You can see each step right here. All of those steps are corresponding to this code here. So first one is not a step, it's just a description that we're going to have timeout of 60 minutes. In case their job will get stuck and will run for longer than 60 minutes, then it's going to time out, because your job should run as fast as possible and definitely not an hour. Second of all, it tells us which operation system is going to run on, and this is going to be Ubuntu. And then we have steps. So very first step is the setup, which is right here. And generally speaking, this setup is just an internal GitHub setup, which is not even a part of this step. So the first step is a checkout, which is going to be pulling the code from our repository. And you can even click it here and to see it, that it is syncing repository, which pretty much is pulling the repo, Codify, automation, play. And then after, let's see, after we check it out or we pull the code, then we set up node version. And a node version is the second step. By the way, guys, these are called GitHub actions. You can see actions/checkout, actions/setup node. If you ever wonder what happens inside of them, you can go to browser and you can simply Google the name. It will take you directly to actions setup node. You can click here and you will see the code of this GitHub action. An action is pretty much like a library in the world of JavaScript or of Node. So it does some things for you. In our case, it sets up specific version of the node. You can read more information right here, but I'm not going to waste the time. Okay. And it sets up specific version. Its star means it's going to be using the stable version that we do need here. Then name install dependencies. That's the next step with the name install dependencies. And you can see it. Let's navigate back to our repository to GitHub Actions, install dependencies. And inside of this this step, we're gonna run the command npm ci. Just like you would run npm I, this is npm ci, which stands for clear. So we're installing all of the dependencies that we need for from our package.json file, which are right here. Great. Moving back. After we've installed all of the dependencies, and you can see same thing as you usually see in your VS Code right there when you run npm I. Added 5 packages and audited 6 packages in blah 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 seconds. Next step, install browsers. Same thing, we're just installing all of the browsers, and a specific command that Playwright did give us from scratch, like this entire file, is npx playwright install with deps, which means dependencies. Awesome. Next one, we're going to run the test, and that's when the magic happens. It's running all of the tests that we have on our computer, and it's running them on a GitHub Actions server. 6 tests passed in 7.8 seconds. Amazing. These are our results. Afterwards, we have a new GitHub action, upload artifact. If always. If always means that regardless of what happens in this step, we're still going to execute this one. So we're going to create a Playwright report that will be stored as an artifact. And if you guys want to see it, which means if you want to see same page, HTML page that you would see on your computer after you run your test, you can click here, run, let's see, and then click this one, artifact, download URL. Click here. It's going to download that URL. Then I'm going to press it, and then you'll see that all the tasks have passed, and this is the report file in HTML. And you can see the same thing as you would see on your computer. Great. I'm going to move backwards to our repo. Awesome. So after that, we do some post checkout, completed job steps, and here is our job is pretty much done. But this is not really it, because this is the very basic setup. I did explain to you what happens in this code. You can set it up, but there are quite a few things that we can do here in order to improve it, in order to take it to the next level. And first of all, this file, before we get to that, this file is located in the .github/workflows. You guys can see it on the screen right here, /workflows folder. If these two folders are not created, or if you did misspell it, I mean, Playwright does set it up by default, but regardless, GitHub Actions will automatically pick all of the workflows or pipelines that have been created only if you put them as a YAML file into .github folder, workflows folder. So workflows live inside of the .github. Great. Now let's make it a little bit more advanced, and I'm going to show you a couple of more things that I've promised to show you on this video. Let's navigate to this page, and by the way, if you guys cannot find it, simply Google Codify CICD or Codify GitHub Actions, and you will find it in Google in case we ever change the URL. I'll also add it into the description right below this video. And I'm going to copy this YAML file from this page, and you guys Feel free to read all the details that we have on this page where you might find them helpful. Also, if you wanna contact me, you can click on this link and set up a call with me to learn more about CD, test automation, or if you even want to take an entire QA course. Awesome. Now we're gonna switch back to our VS Code. I'm going to click anywhere on the page, Command A, Command V to overwrite our YAML file with a little bit more complex YAML file. So this one does include a couple of things. I'm going to start from the first one, which is the workflow dispatch, which is pretty much a manual button. This will give us ability not only to create a pull request or push our code and then see the run, but also to manually see it, manually kick it off and choose the browser, mainly choose the browser which we want to run our test in. Let me show you how that is going to work. Git add dot. Git commit -m. By the way, git add dot is not a best practice to use. I do know that I did, in fact, made changes. I know that I'll be adding only those changes that I did make. But for you guys, please run git status and add every file one by one, not an entire thing. Great. Now we're going to commit it and say add manual trigger. I'm going to push it. And then I'm going to switch. Perfect. I'm going to switch back here. I'm going to navigate to the code. Actions. You can see that it did get triggered because this is based on the fact that we are pushing, and it's not actually the best practice to run your code upon every push because you might push a lot. You might push a lot of commands, but you don't want to run them all the time. So I would probably remove this one and only leave pull request, but that's going to be up to you. There are a lot of different triggers, and you can read more about them on official GitHub page. Great. Now, here's what's going to happen. Now, how do you manually kick it off aside of automatically? You can always click on the playwright test or the name of your workflow, and now we do have this button. Before, it did not exist. Now when I click it, you'll see branch name master. That's the default one. I'm going to use it. Which browser to test, and you can choose different options. And all of that came from this code right here. Workflow dispatch, then inputs, browser, which it means we're going to be picking up the browser. Type, choice, that tells GitHub Actions to create this pop-up with the multiple choices, multiple options. And then description, which browser to test, which goes here. Required true, which gives us this star right here and tells us that, hey, if people do not choose, by default, it is going to be Chromium, but as it is the first one, but people should definitely choose one. And then options. We have different options, Chromium, Firefox, WebKit, and if you click here, you can see all of them. So let's run it with a Firefox manually. By manually, I mean we're choosing it, we're selecting it, and then we're saying run workflow. Perfect. After I clicked it, you see the page did refresh, but we do not see our run. Well, now you see it. It just takes a little bit of time sometimes for GitHub to kick off, to set up the server, I don't know, to kick it off, and then we can look into it. Okay. Playwright test. You can actually see the difference. This is the name of the first command. This is the name of the second command. And playwright test means that, hey, this was kicked manually. And you can actually see it right here. Playwright test number 3, which means third run, manually run by Codify Automation, which is my GitHub username. And by the way, I'm a pro, guys, and if you want to become a professional QA engineer, navigate to codify.com and check out the QA courses that we have. Or you can simply schedule a call with me. I'm going to leave a link right below this video. Great, the job is done, and we don't even have to look into it because we already know what's up. But what else did we add here? Aside of adding this choice right here of workflow dispatch, please pay attention to inputs. What does it give us? Whenever you're manually kicking off a test run or the run, you remember the drop down, or we had Chromium, Firefox, or WebKit. The default one is Chromium, but if you ever want to choose the default one or the one that was automatically choose, just move this line above. Firefox moves up, and then Firefox will be the default one. But if we scroll down, you will see that all the way at the bottom we have our command to run the code, regardless if you kick it off manually or automatically. But the thing is, we're selecting project here and we're passing variable, or we're using our Chromium string that we have hard-coded here. So pretty much we have a selection of GitHub event inputs browser, which comes from the drop-down, or if this was not specified, if it's undefined, which means if the run was kicked off automatically by one of the triggers instead of the manual one, then it is simply going to utilize Chromium, which is the default one. So you guys can also specify that in your code just like here.